because of something that took place 20 to 25 years ago, the intergender wrestling, there were people who wanted to create the narrative I was a psychopath. There were people who wanted to create the narrative I was a narcissist, suffered from narcissistic personality disorder. There were people that wanted to villainize me. And some of these people were my parents, family, friends, acquaintances. You know, a lot of these people didn't know me. And even my parents and family misunderstand me. They don't know me. You know, they don't really know me. I believe there were powerful people like radio shock jocks who wanted to villainize me, and you know, it was projection. You know, they were daydreaming stories about me that just weren't true. They were diagnosing me based on things that weren't true, based on their imagination of who I was. They didn't know me, you know? They really didn't. They didn't know the soft-hearted, loving guy I am. They don't know the wonderful person I am. They wanted to believe false narratives about me, and they cut me out of their lives, and they want me to be the villain in their story. And, you know, now that, you know, pretty much I'm just dispelling all the false narratives they were spewing, you know, they're like, oh, you know, they want me to be the villain in their story. But, you know, the best in the business of psychiatry, doctors, academics, professionals have said, you know, Andrew is not a narcissist. Andrew is not a psychopath. Andrew is not a sociopath. You know, Andrew's diagnosis is, I guess, delusional disorder or schizoaffective disorder. You know, Andrew's a sweetheart, a softie. And, you know, just because there was some expert, some shock jock who had a microphone and he said, oh, this guy's a psychopath, this guy's a monster. When he takes off his mask, you're going to see the monster he is, and you're going to see he's a demon and a fiend. You know, meanwhile, it was projection. These people didn't know what the hell, I mean, you know, they wanted me to come back with righteous rage, and they wanted me to scream and shout and throw tantrums, and they want me to be the villain in their story. They don't want me to... Basically, for the past 20 to 25 years, they conspired into depriving me of riches, fame. They were trying to give me the worst life imaginable. They were trying to sabotage my life. With this narrative that I was a bad person. With this narrative that I was a monster. The truth is, I was a sweet and sensitive kid. I was a kid who was getting bullied. I was a kid who was rejected. There were, you know, a few things that I did that were wrong in my youth, but who didn't do a few things that were wrong? You know, the truth is, I was not a bad kid. I was like a really sweet kid, like a mama's boy. But, you know, everybody turned on me after, you know, the intergender wrestling, and they wanted to villainize me, and they wanted to, you know, turn me into this monster. And I was in desperate need of love. I was in desperate need of help. And, you know, what did I get when I was at my lowest? What did I get when I was at rock bottom? People conspiring into giving me trauma because they just didn't want to hear my side of the story. They didn't want to hear the pain and suffering I lived through. They just wanted to think I was the monster. Because the narcissists were just covering up my story, covering up my reality, and they were just saying what a monster I was, how I was the abusive one, how I was the problematic one. Meanwhile, what you were seeing was reactive abuse from their narcissistic baiting. But, you know, it's all good. I don't have to tell you my side of the story, and you can believe what you want to. You can believe I'm this monster and lunatic and psychopath, which is not true. You can believe it if you want to. But, because some people, they just want me to be the villains in their story because it will justify every everything they did to me. You know, they want me to be the villain because it justifies what they did to me. And, you know, they don't want... if I'm Satan in their minds, they can justify the fucked up things they did to me, basically.